Good morning, everyone from Nairobi, Kenya. It's quite a nice, a sunny day out here, and of course, thank God it's Friday. For those of us who know what I mean, welcome to the LBG's webinar today on the 14th day of August. Sorry. My name is Sefa Zokoth, and I am the founder and lead at Cyber in Africa. We call ourselves the voice of Africa cybersecurity, and what we do is cybersecurity media, with a mission to bring Africa's cybersecurity to the forefront of the continental and global scenes. We do this through media, we do special industry programs, we do events, and a couple other things, across, developing brands, thought leadership, marketing, publications, etc. And we do this specifically for the cybersecurity community. We work a lot with partnerships, and we also serve some, entities of interest. So in this webinar today, we are going to consider and discuss security awareness across different facets, culture, leadership, programming, change, and a couple others. And we have a guest panel today that will address the above topic and the issues around it, and other issues that's being during the conversation. So they'll be introducing themselves in a little while, but in the meantime, I'd like us to connect with each other. So what I'm gonna do is I am dropping some links in the chat section. Please follow us, connect with us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, check out the websites there. We are definitely big on building relationships, and we'd like to talk to you and you talking to us. Moving on to a bit of housekeeping, please ask your questions or seek clarifications in the chat section. Feel free to share any information or links to knowledge resources also in the chat section. In case there are technical difficulties on our end or on the speaker's end, we ask that you, as usual, be patient and stick around with us while we hustle to solve those out. Again, as I always say, whatever can go wrong can go wrong. Okay, so before we get into today's agenda, in our webinar last week, we talked about corporate governance and how IT and risk governance and management come into play as part of the overall enterprise governance. We talked principles, practices, standards, leadership, and more. You can check out the Yale Bridges YouTube channel for the recording. And Lisa, you can share the link to the YouTube channel or the YouTube recording in the chat section as well. Sweet. So let's get into today's talk. And gentlemen, please introduce yourselves. And as always, I will start with our host, Steve.
Thank you, Sefa. Good morning, good afternoon, if at all anyone is joining in the afternoon. Great to have you on board. So my name is Steve Mambo, the Chief Operating Officer of Yale Bridges. Bio about myself. I've been in the ICT space for the last 13 years. Spent half of that in cybersecurity, assisting organizations and consulting for organizations on how best to mitigate cyber risk, and more so also how do they build cyber defense. It's also very of interest that today's topic of cybersecurity awareness is a key topic that I'm very keen on. When I started my journey into entrepreneurship, my first focus was onto awareness training, because I could already tell, this was around 2014, there's a big opportunity that will be coming in terms of training and more so awareness training for staff in corporates and SMEs. So I'm here to share my experience. I'm here to learn from the rest of the engaging and interesting conversation. Thank you.
Great. Nonso Chude. I love your name, by the way. Nonso, can you hear me?
You're on mute, Nonso.
Again, I'm mute.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for liking my name, Surface. It means close, but it's close, basically. So, I'm a husband. I always like starting with that. It's always good to put things out there so everybody knows. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm not. But most importantly, I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I got into this field since 2012 professionally. I went to school. I started studying IT, looking towards going towards networking. And along the way, I realized that the world we are living in is no longer secure in terms of online. When you're online. And then I was still, modem was in thing in Kenya then. And whenever I access sites, I always get these pop-ups. I don't remember how, I don't know, I mean, not I don't remember, of course, all of us know this. I always get these pop-ups on my screen for ads. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? I mean, I'm surfing and I'm seeing multiple ads coming from my screen. I keep closing it. And that's because, I was just being spammed. Like I said, it kind of like got me intrigued because I want to learn more about it. And that's when I got introduced into cybersecurity. And I said, I picked up from day one. And after graduating, I started working as a cybersecurity analyst. And ever since then, I've just been, been updating my knowledge, getting to know more things, getting to know how things work, getting to break things and getting to make them better. Then in 2016, I decided, okay, I think I have gotten enough knowledge about, enough, how do I call it, organization experience working for an organization. Let me actually break down and start working.
So I can't hear you. I wonder if I'm the only one.
All right. So then in 2016, I decided to start my own entrepreneurial journey.
Nonso?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So in 2016, I said, where did you lose me?
I've heard you right through. Nonso.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, just go ahead, Nonso. Just go ahead.
So in 2016, I said to start my own entrepreneur work. And ever since then, I've been, been testing out organizations, performing weaknesses for them, and pen tests for them, and identifying their vulnerabilities and weaknesses. But now, sometime in 2018, I then understood, I then realized that, look, it's no longer the era of I'm going to break into your web application, I'm going to break into your network. That era has always been there, and it's a field everyone is getting into, and we are all forgetting one thing. We're all forgetting the fact that the greatest weakness, apparently, is the human side. And I have committed myself into, educating people, training people to let them know, look, you cannot say you're a specialist, you're all rounded in protecting yourself per se, because every day that you think you're okay with the information you have, cyber actors are out there coming up with new ways, and I'll share some of these new ways as we go forward. So thank you. Hello.
Hey, Nonso. I think Cephas has left
Daryl.
us.
Sorry, I'm still here. I was just on mute.
Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, Daryl.
Hi guys. So yeah, after those sort of introductions, I struggle to sort of match up. But I'm Daryl here from Know4 Africa. I just want to let everyone know right off the bat that the company I work for is a cybersecurity awareness training and simulated phishing company. So this is what I live, breathe, and eat, sleep. I absolutely love the market we're in. It's a green market. I think we need to look at how, as Nonso said, the humans are our biggest risk. And there's a lot of people that aren't educated in the fact that if we don't get their users trained, their organization's at a bigger risk than having the best firewalls, best antiviruses, best endpoints around. But if one of those phishing emails get through, we're goners. So yeah, I'm very excited to chat to you, to answer some questions. Looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
All right, fantastic. So just give me a minute. Let me do something here. It has refused. Okay, so getting into the gist of what we are about to talk today, I will start with Steve. You cannot talk about security awareness because you're dealing with people and you're dealing with threats to people. without referencing the threat landscape. What are the trends that cyber threats trends we are looking at this year, and how does these trends relate to the human aspect of security? Steve?
Very well, Sefa. That's a very interesting question, and more so, especially at this time. I think if you look at what COVID-19 has done, is that a number of things have happened due to the current pandemic. That has also triggered more threats, cyber threats, of course, targeting now the human factor. And I think either Nonso or Dali, one of them mentioned that it's not a matter of technology, it's a matter of the people. Because the attacker will always want to look for the easiest way for them to break into your system. Nobody really wants to work hard. If there's an easier route to achieve something, they'll probably opt for that. And for the attacker, for them, they know the humans will always be weak. We are the weakest link in the entire chain. Could have the best firewall, could have the best policies, but if your users are not aware about the threats, they are the biggest challenge to any other organization. So what the adversary will do in most cases will first target the user, and I think maybe later on we'll be sharing some of the statistics out there. Before has done a very good job on that, indicating that any majority of the cyber incidents start off with either a phishing attack or some human error that leads to the next threat. So the adversary's weapon of choice is first compromise the user, then thereafter they can introduce any other of the tools that they intended to apply for the organization. So back to the threats, I think we've seen, yes, huge numbers in terms of phishing attacks and social engineering scams, especially during this period of the pandemic, which of course now also is embedded towards other threats, e.g. ransomware. Business email compromise is still ongoing, still part of the phishing family, phishing attacks family, and many others around the same. But you'll notice majority of them have still some element where the human is being targeted.
Well, interesting. Any thoughts from Daryl and Nonso?
Okay. Hi everyone again. So just to add on what Steve has said, when we do look at this the trends in cybersecurity from the COVID-19 point of view, we've seen that with this pandemic, what this pandemic has brought is work from home. I mean, at some point, most organizations thought this was impossible. You need to be presently there or physically there, and that way you're secure. But now, work from home. And this way, I mean, you are behind probably untrusted networks. Probably you're just using your wireless or you're using a VPN to connect to your office resource. But when we do think about how how we feel, how do we feel when working from home? How do we feel? How sure are we that while we work from home, we are protected? I mean, the basic network infrastructure we have in our houses won't just cut it. Take for example, let me look. Take for example, look at the hack on. Hold on, I have this slide here. Look at there's currently a hack ongoing in the United States, and what this cyber actor is doing is he's sending out phishing emails to business owners and telling them, look, I'm getting this. I want you guys to log into this platform because your request for a loan to run your business is ongoing and has been approved. So what do? They click on the link without thinking because they're already excited. I mean, you've seen this loan coming from the government. It's it's there for you. It's there for you, and they're it's there for you, and you're really excited. So what's next? What's the first thing you do? You click on the link, and then the link actually doesn't take you to the proper website. It takes you to his own website, his own URL, and that way, I mean, he's gotten you input your username and password.
Oh boy, not sure what's going on. Let me check on that.
And that way, you put in your username and you put in your password, And of course, we all know what happened. You log in, but definitely it doesn't go through because it reloads and now sends you to the proper page, and you think you've forgotten something, and you log in again. So now from your own point of view, I mean, if you are behind your company's firewall, infrastructure, security infrastructure, maybe that might not happen. Maybe your technology, your company's technology, might actually filter that out and say, okay, look, this looks suspicious. I'm going to block it because it's been flagged or blacklisted or something. But at home, you don't have that kind of luxury. But let's not just look at it from working from home alone. Even in organizations, what happened to Twitter recently? Twitter got hacked. Top names were, we all saw the time to send back, giving back, and use Bitcoin and things like that. And a lot of people actually fell for the scam. So, I mean, the more we look at it as, if these are just things that are happening outside, it's actually hitting back, it's hitting home. Look at, the one I believe we are all also very common with is the normal Tala loan scam, for example, where you get a text message from some random number, tells you, look, we have 100,000, 10,000, and call this number. I mean, it does not necessarily also have to just be phishing. It could be phishing. It could be, there are so many other ways, cyber actors are using to get into you, in a way whereby you don't see it. And I hope we actually address, discuss, look more into this in this session.
Yeah, interesting. I've actually heard you mention some things that I read in the Know Before Africa report that is for 2019. Daryl, could you tell us, are we seeing the same trends you guys found in your report last year? The BC,
Awesome.
the phishing, etc.
Yeah, thank you, Cephas, and Nonso, unbelievably well said. I firmly agree with you. So first and foremost, I mean, I think all of us here have got an email from a Nigerian prince or someone in the Middle East wanting to give us money because a family member that we don't have in that country has died. I'm sure we can all relate to that sort of phishing email. Those are the easy ones that most of us can spot because we know we don't have any family in the Middle East or in Lagos or anything. So those are the easy ones. But I'll just give you some stats from the cyber report, the cybercrime report, and first and foremost from Verizon Data Breach 2019. So this is a global stats, guys. 32% of phishing emails are from confirmed cases of data breaches. 32% of phishing emails. 28% of those data breaches come from malware, and 29% come from the use of stolen credentials. Now, obviously, the stolen credentials can come from a couple of various factors, social engineering or phishing, but that's on a global scale. Now, if we scroll to the right and we'll go to Africa, Africa is an open market. It's an emerging market, and cybercrime loves Africa. Why? Well, because the uniqueness of the South African, the African security landscape is that we have a high unemployment rate, which drives the rate for youth illegal activities. We all have that across the whole continent. The high mobile connectivity, so the pervasiveness of WhatsApp and falling for clicks on your safe space, which is your WhatsApp. So some stats about Africa is that in Africa, 28% of people have fallen for a phishing email in Africa. 27% have fell for a scam or a con artist. 50% have had a small or big malware infection. There are 65% that are percent of the study that we did is concerned about cybercrime. And this is the scariest factor of them all. 28% of those of the people we surveyed did not know how to protect themselves. And that to me is the scariest point in this whole exercise, is that we as KnowBe4, we live, breathe, sleep. I mean, if you talk cybercrime and cybersecurity awareness, I'm going to blabble on for days about it, and I'm just going to go on. But there's a lot of people that have no idea what a phishing email is, no idea what malware is, and no idea what phishing is, voice phishing, as Nonso mentioned earlier. So the key outtake in this is upskilling the human factor. So once we've upskilled the human factor, you'll understand that the security landscape in Africa itself will actually start changing. And how do I put this? We will become a safer continent from cybercrime. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely, and I know phishing threats are normally called the evergreen threats. You know, they are always there. They'll always keep coming. I mean, they're not going anywhere. Um, Now, pivoting from threats, I know security awareness is important, obviously because of the threats that we see, and then of course because for you to build a robust or a thriving security security strategy, you definitely need to upskill your people. But let me come back to you, Daryl. You know, how do you see the importance in practice of security awareness? Because I mean, we'll all agree that there are still many people out there, even the 28%, probably those are organization leaders, organization managers, who don't buy into the idea of, you know, training their people, you know, every other time. What's the practical importance of awareness and training?
Fantastic question, Cephas. So first and foremost, you need to have buy-in from your management. So the higher management need to understand the risks involved with cybersecurity, with upskilling your users. And it's not just to get their money. I mean, we all know that we need their money, they sign off to implement these places. But if they don't fully believe in upskilling their employees, it'll never happen. So we actually have to show management, and it's tough to just do like showing them stats. You know, we can all pull stats, and then you often find that they go, no, that's from America, or no, that's from Europe. This is Africa. We do things differently. Yes, 100%. We do things differently, but we do things that we are even more at risk because we use a lot more WhatsApp than in America or in Europe. You know, we have a lot more unprotected areas in our organization, and a lot of that to do with unskilled employees. And it's not that they're unskilled at their job, it's that they don't understand what social engineering is, what tailgating is, phishing, vishing. I could go on for days about things that they don't know. Our job is to make sure that management understand the financial risks of a data breach, and also to see how do we upskill those users. You don't have to buy the best package in the world, but you also don't want to put them in front of a PowerPoint presentation, make them go through a PowerPoint presentation for a day. Let's be honest, we all fall asleep to PowerPoint presentations. We all like, the only reason we go to them is for the free donuts and free coffee. You know, no one takes note. There's no way to test your users. So I think one of the key things about training your users ongoing is also testing your users. So from the testing, you can actually see if the training is working, if you need to tweak your training, do you need to send out targeted training? So the key importance takeout here is making sure that your higher up management team understand the risks involved with cybercrime. And once they're on board, you'll find that it'll actually filter down to the rest of the team, because it's easy to talk to the CISO. They understand it. They know what we're talking about. But making sure higher management is on board is one of the key aspects I find in making sure that the end users get adaptly trained and upskilled for cybersecurity.
And how do you go about demonstrating value or demonstrating need, particularly to the board and the management? You know, what are the tricks here?
We never like tricks. You know, it makes us sound bad, but I would suggest showing them real life statistics of their own organization. Okay, so I know we've discussed this with Steve afterwards, and he'll send all the organizations here a link to a free phishing test of your organization. But that's a very key aspect to show the security posture in that organization. Is that's fine. Let's hear it's a simulated phishing test on your users, up to 100 users. Let's send it out and let's see what the results come back. Let's see how strong or how understanding your users are to phishing emails. And we find that a lot of the times when the management see those results, suddenly they haven't bought in yet. Don't get me wrong. You know, they don't just make a quick 180 turnaround. They still need some education themselves. But when they start finding out that their users are clicking on random basic phishing emails, suddenly there's a little light bulb that goes in. Hey guys, we might actually have some sort of risk here. Let's investigate a bit more. And I think that's the nice starting point to getting your management to understand that there is a risk at the organization and there is a need to build on that risk. Yeah.
Industry. Steve,
Very well.
you.
Yeah, Cephas, let me just jump into what Dali has been talking about. And I think what global statistics do is that they give us perspective of what's happening in the industry, which is very good. But now when you bring it closer to the organization environment, where you're actually able to enlighten the management or the board that now we've done a phishing campaign. We told you that most of the 91% of cyber attacks starts with a phishing email attack or something. Let's now do this to your organization. 100 users, as Darlene said. Out of that, what percentage did fell prey for this simulated attack? And now remember, we carried out the simulation in a controlled environment. Now think of what the attacker, who has no rules in the game, would do to your organization if they are still able to access the 100 employees. That's the kind of conversation that you start having with the board, and that's how they start appreciating the importance of conducting user awareness, and more so being able to track. Because there's one bit of training, everyone could sit down, listen, but how do you know that it's actually having an impact to the employee and to their work? That's very important. Another interesting element we want to also break down is that cybersecurity is not just an IT challenge. And I think that's an analogy that, we all have to appreciate and break it down. It's no longer an issue of the IT manager or the CIO buying firewalls, buying security solutions. That's very good. But however, the people factor, everyone is responsible for the people, from the board all the way to the user of the system. So that's why awareness also plays a very critical role, that it also gives everyone a responsibility that I am my first line of defense for my organization against cyber attacks. That's the other key element of why cybersecurity awareness is very critical in today's world as we try and fight cybercrime. Thank you.
So in essence, awareness really empowers the employee to be conscious and to understand that the security of the enterprise depends on them first as an individual. And I will ask a very interesting question about that later. But to you, Nonso, you're an analyst. Can you give us your perspective on the importance of security and how the board or the leadership play a role? Because I read an article somewhere that looked at security awareness from an analyst perspective, from a security operations team perspective. Because most of the alerts, most of the probably incidences the security ops guys will probably raise in an enterprise in a typical day will be from the basic things, phishing emails, links here and there. Why is it important? How do you see it?
Okay, so to answer I'm not so clear on your second question. Could you kindly repeat the second part for me on the phishing email part?
Yeah, it's just one question. I was just mentioning of a case where I read an article that reflected on security awareness, but from an analyst perspective, from a technical perspective, that before we get alerts in the SOC, before we get alerts in the by the blue team guys, we'll need to deal with the issues, across the organization, so that the blue teaming guys do not end up getting false positives and incident alerts from the common threats like phishing.
All right. So Sepa, like Daryl and Steve said earlier, the phishing emails do not necessarily. I mean, you could have the best, technology infrastructure, the best security structure, the security firewall, the best IPS, and the best IDS. You could have all those things in play. But look, phishing emails now are not like the normal phishing emails which we knew back 2 years ago, even back early this year. Phishing emails, they morph. They get they're more sophisticated attacks right now. So from a managerial point of view, from a leadership point of view, you could say, fine. Just to add on what Daryl and Steve mentioned, you could say, let us run a simulation to see how many people get involved and get phished, and the numbers could come in. But you see, the leadership might not really, from what I have gathered, leadership might not really think that, they might say, okay, fine, the numbers are 40% got phished, 60% and 20% did not even participate, or they were just playing it safe, and 40% knew what they were doing. You could give that kind of stats. However, the best way, from my own point of view, the best way to actually drive, cyber awareness home is when it affects you directly. If it does not affect you directly, you don't know what, you don't know what this person is talking about. If you've ever been scammed of something, let's say you go somewhere and someone scams you of 50,000 shillings, for example, you're hurt, you learn. So if the leadership team, if we actually focus, for example, our attacks on leadership team via phishing, okay, fine, they might suspect phishing, but vision, because they don't really know. If you for someone to call them, having their number, probably they feel it's more important than an email. So if you do attack them and you get sensitive information from them, and you tell them, look, this is what we're talking about. You've been phished, and I was able to get 1, 2, 3, I was able to get your bank account information and things like that. You see, now he takes it more seriously, because there is no way you can say you want to train just the employees without top management getting involved. And if they're not committed to this, forget about it. And now, if you also look at, when we're looking at phishing from a different perspective, attackers don't necessarily go to, for example, surface@yellbridges.com to attack your email. They attack your work email and they attack your private email. Nothing is safe. And let's not forget one thing. They are not here just to steal your login information. That's a plus for them. But they're also here to embed malware in your system. They're also here to turn your computer into a bot. Are you getting it? To conduct other attacks. Now, say for example, employee X has gotten his has gotten phished, and he has no awareness. He doesn't know, what to do. And mind you, you do not know it's a phishing scam. You have no idea. I've seen sophisticated phishing emails now that I myself start to wonder. I have to analyze and reanalyze these emails to know if it's legit or not legit. Do you get? So sometimes you can actually see this email. Say, for example, let me give you a practical example that just hit me this morning. When you fill your tax returns on the iTax portal, you submit, you send, sometimes you see how much the government is to give you back, isn't it? If they're to give you anything, which they, from my experience, they never do send me anything. But say, for example, 6 months down the line, it's past, your returns, it's past return date, and you've submitted everything, and you're expecting money or not expecting money, doesn't matter. And then you get a text message saying, "Hi, this is KRA, and we just want to let you know we've processed your taxes, and we're to revert you this some amount of money." They won't say how much to your email. So expect a mail from us in the course of the week. Now, first of all, you see they've already disarmed you, because they're not attacking you. They're just telling you to expect. You don't expect that from a phishing email, because ideally you think they're going straight to the point. Now, after like 2-3 days, you get an email from KRA with the proper email address and everything, the same look and feel. It's not hard to replicate. Just copy the code and paste it up on your system, and you get it, and it says, click on this link to log into KRA and put your bank information and so many other information, and you do all these things. You click on the first things is, you're so excited you've gotten an email that you forget to check if it's a phishing email, because you got a message a couple of days ago thinking it's legit. And what do? You click on the link and it takes you to the KRA and systems or software system to give you, and you fill in information. Now, two things might occur. One or two things might occur. First one is, you've given them information, sensitive information, willingly, because it's the government. That's what you think. Secondly, they now have access to your system. So you're really there filling out whatever you're feeling, and someone has full control over your system. So to sum up, we cannot just look at phishing attacks from one point of view and say this is it, this is it. We need to, even your IT team cannot, they need to constantly update themselves. And don't forget, the IT team, they also have other challenges. They also have other things they're tackling. So that's why you need to actually have specialists in this field, because you need to allocate, like Dario said, you need to allocate the proper amount of training and the proper amount of funds to target it. You need to make it, you need to tailor it in a way whereby everybody, the organization knows, look, this is a big case. This is, if we get exploited at any time, our sensitive information will be lost. Organizations are important about two things: finances and image. Lose any of them, what do you have? You have a disaster. Thank you.
So show them the impact of losing the two things, or one of them.
Exactly.
And they're gonna listen to you.
Especially if it hits them home, they will definitely listen to you.
I mean, for a while, there's always been this conversation of I can't get my bot to fund this security program or security awareness program. So we need to hack them internally, find a way to get some, get some hackers on high-end hacker organizations, so that we'll come to the board and say, fine, we actually got hacked, so you need to be serious about this. But again, that is definitely unethical. You remind me of a recent case. I don't know if you guys know that Sans had a security incident, and it was because of phishing. I can see Daryl nodding. Maybe you can give us some insights around that. What have you heard about that case?
I haven't heard too much. Well, I have heard a bit about it, but effectively, what that is that the company was phished, and they actually got into his emails. And what they did is they actually put a forwarding rule onto his emails, so that he actually didn't get emails, or it kept forwarding his emails to another inbox. I say his. I don't know if it was his or her, so I'm just saying his for this conversation. And I think it was like for 3 or 4 months, he actually wasn't receiving proper emails. He was receiving like every second or third email, and a lot of them were getting forwarded out. And that's just a basic sort of social engineering phishing attack that they've taken his details, they've put on a small forwarding rule, and now they've got a lot of personally identifiable information about other people, which again just shows you that anybody is able to be hacked with any sort of emails. Internally, I could say, yeah, 100%.
Very well, darling. I think just to add on to that, the reason why also I think phishing attacks are on the rise, and just getting back to what the experience Darling was sharing, was that there's a lot of trust in email. And that's why phishing attacks most of the times are very successful. We as humans trust email a lot. When you receive an email, you believe it's from the source. I mean, it's an email, for heaven's sake. So nobody really takes time to even do simple verification. And that's where the aspect of awareness comes in, that when you receive that email, take a step back, breathe in, breathe out, read through the content. Does it make sense? If not, just verify. It just makes, take a phone call, verify, walk to your colleague's desk, walk to someone and confirm whether this email was an actual email. Because you'll be very interested. As part of what we do, we also run phishing campaigns, and you'll see how people in organizations do respond to email. I mean, you can tell that as much as, yes, you've crafted a very convincing email, people would never pay much attention to see how the sender address looks like, provided I see a name that I know, Steve Mambo. This must be Steve Mambo. I'll respond to the email, I'll take action on the email, because I've seen the name Steve Mambo, and I believe there's only one Steve Mambo out there. So it also comes back to the bit of that we have a lot of trust on email, and more so even technology. That's it for me for now.
I think the beauty about hackers is that they can be anyone at any point in time. They can be Steve, they can be Daryl, they can be nonsense. I mean, they can be a priest. I mean, they can be virtually anyone.
So we all laugh, and we look at, and as you mentioned, it could be anyone. We all think that the hackers are these guys with black capes, in dark rooms. Let me tell you guys that they are sitting at your Starbucks coffee shop, or whatever Starbucks based in Nairobi. They're sitting at that coffee shop. They've set up their own open Wi-Fi, and all they're doing is waiting for you to connect to that open Wi-Fi. Boom, they're into your network. That's literally how easy it is. As harsh as that sounds, and as dangerous as it sounds, it is the dead truth. It is as easy as logging onto a Wi-Fi you're not sure about, or a public Wi-Fi that could be compromised.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if I can reference, before I bring you in, Nonso, if I can reference to the SANS Institute hack, you mentioned that forwarding feature was installed, and emails were moving to a third party. In essence, that is a very great way to do invoice scamming. probably this guy is a guy who signs invoices or signs checks. I mean, the third party will receive a lot of those emails, transaction emails, and they will write a check in a different account, send to a supplier, send to a customer somewhere. The customer pays to their account, and bingo, money has been lost. A lot of money besides the PII and the PA. I mean, all the private confidential data. So let me start another line of question here, and I'll begin with Daryl then to Nonso. In a previous conversation, there's been this sentiment that our people here in Africa, our decision makers, might not be very keen or very convinced with statistics and data that are not local. Daryl, what have you seen, especially based on your KnowBe4 research? What have you seen in terms of using local stats vis-a-vis the international stats? Which ones work well, or how can you even use a hybrid approach to this?
Great question. So I do think that we need to use a hybrid because, again, hackers could be sitting in Russia and they send out different attacks to different parts of the world. But what we have found is that we need to keep things local. So information about local. In South Africa, we use the word local is lekker, which means, locals, like people trust local, they understand local. So my suggestion is that I do think we need to get as much local knowledge as possible with regards to everything. And KnowBe4 have actually been sending out quite a lot of sort of surveys around through LinkedIn and emails and stuff, so that we can gain that information from you guys who are on the ground, who are actually seeing all the attacks or the campaigns running, anything like that. And excuse me, and that data is actually used for us to create information that we'll actually share back with you. Hey, Kenya has this much or this amount of phishing attacks. Their data breaches are sort of this much. So getting local data is extremely important. And back onto your question, I know I sort of digressed a bit. You find that management are a lot more open to understanding that, hey, this is actually happening in my country or the country next door. It's just a matter of time before it comes here. When they're in another country or another continent, it's a lot more laxy-daisy response where it's only happening in America. It won't actually come to Africa. That'll stay in America. Very closed-minded way to look at it, but we do find that happens. But getting information that is local, that is understanding the local market, that is 100% the best ammo that we could use to talk to the powers that be, so to speak. Nonso, what are your thoughts?
All right, thank you so much for that, Daryl. So, I think you've said it all, but just to add a few, bits in here and there, the concept of hybrid makes a lot of sense. And I always have this saying, not just in security, in everything. What's working in Europe, or what's working in Europe and what's working in America doesn't necessarily mean it's working in Africa. Africa is a totally different place. In fact, the system in place in Europe is already different from the system in the States. So sometimes at Africa, we assume because it's working perfectly in America, it has to be, it must work for us in Africa. No, it's not going to happen. But we could borrow some of them and tweak it to our own standards, because we understand our problem. You understand? So if you start saying, for example, you want to consult an American firm, and by the way, or an European firm, an Asian firm, let me also put in Asia there. If you say you want to consult one of these firms to conduct a social engineering on your, on your corporates, on your employees, they will give you what works for them. But we all know our own challenges, and we may not be able to get the right amount of information, because a local hack, we have the rise of local cyber actors in Africa is on the rise. Everyone now wants to be a hacker. They see it as some kind of cool, cool thing. And some of them are actually black hats. You understand? Rogue hackers. They just want to hack to steal money, to make money faster. You understand? So they will not really understand, the challenges we as Africans we go through. You get? So we need to actually borrow their concept, tweak it, modify it, and let it work. And then secondly, prior to this session, I previously looked up phishing attacks in Africa. If you Google that, it's really difficult to come up with numbers. You only see, I think before, I think I actually saw a report from you guys. You have, a stat on some places or some employees, but like a global African database, there is none. That's because we're not reporting.
Yeah,
We're not reporting, and if you do not have a global database, what do you have? You can't, you can't analyze information. You cannot say, fine, these are the current trends in cybersecurity. So basically, we are just going to try to be innovative in different ways. But now, even when we are trying to educate, other people, we have to be really, really creative, first of all. But you see, if we have a database, it will make life easier for everybody to be aware, to have this awareness in them, because you could all go out there and get this information. Thank you.
Interesting. And Steve, Steve has disappeared from my screen. Not sure where he is, but if you can hear me, Steve, please come around. We definitely need a global African. Let me unmute you. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment just to add on to what the two panelists have mentioned in terms of the hybrid. I think one interesting benefit of using a hybrid model is that, one, you get to learn from other economies or other regions. And secondly, as you look back at home, you're able to have something to benchmark or look up to from this perspective. Yes, the markets could be different. Africa is a totally different market, different perspective, but there's a lot of learnings we can also pick from the rest of the world. In doing so, also, even our own market in Africa, we also have a lot of learnings to learn from each other. And if you look at how technology is, there's no big difference between what's happening in New York and what's happening in Nairobi or Accra in Ghana. It's almost the same thing. The threats will definitely be almost the same thing. So yes, it's good to benchmark from across the globe, but also it's also very important to look at what's happening at home and try and see how best to pick lessons that are happening at home vis-a-vis what's happening in the rest of the world. Back to you, Cephas, and don't mute me again.
No, I don't know what's happening. You keep falling off my screen and then you go on mute. Not sure what's going on. Anyway, good sentiments there. As I was mentioning earlier, we definitely need a global Africa database, and I don't know how the private sector can help in that. Maybe Daryl Nobifo should help in that one. Maybe lead that conversation. But again, we need to do a lot more recording and tracking of our incidents, particularly the BECs. We've seen a lot of those in Africa. That would be very important. So, Daryl, tell us, what are some of the foundational pillars for for security awareness? When you're talking about security awareness to a client or to an organization, what are these first things you need to mention that needs to come to mind? I mean,
okay,
going back to basics, right?
Yeah. So going back to basics for me personally, this is just from my side. I have sort of 4 pillars. It's the physical security. Okay, it's the data security, it's the processes, and it's your architecture. Okay. Now the 2 I'll touch on here is the physical security and the data protection. Okay. Physical security, a lot of people forget about because it's very easy for you to steal a swipe card from someone's organization. It's easy for you to walk in with 2 coffees. Okay. Someone's busy scanning themselves in with their fingerprint, and you say, hey, listen, can you please scan me in? I've got 2 coffees. I can't put it down. Just a clever way of getting into your organization with no effort. I mean, of course, we're all nice people. We're all going to go, sure, no problem. Scan them in, let them go through, then you scan yourself in. Suddenly, you've just let in a stranger into your organization without even knowing. So I think physical security we need to focus on. That's one aspect. And then data protection, or understanding why data protection is important. One of the key pillars is making security awareness fun, making it a fun, engaging platform so that it's not a boring chore. It's not, oh, I'm going to watch this PowerPoint presentation. This is the 3rd time this year I've watched the same presentation. No, we need to make it fun, engaging, maybe some short videos that help, you know, keep guys watching, keep them having a laugh. Because when people are laughing and actually having fun, they tend to remember it better. So obviously the process starts off right in the beginning is how you set up your plans, how you set up what you want to do. And the architecture, well, that's a bit out of my sort of scope of work, because that is where your CISOs actually understand what VPNs you need in place, what firewalls you need in place, and so forth and so forth. But for me, those are the four key pillars to security awareness. And physical security and data protection and making things fun, those are what I love to talk about, because those are the easiest ways for people to get into your organization. We all know you guys spend a lot of money on really good firewalls, really good VPNs, really good endpoints. So why try hack them? Let's just talk to Steve. Let's let him, he can let me into my organization by me holding 2 coffees. It's that easy. 2 coffees. Hey, can you let me in, please? I can't actually put this down to get in. I can't use my tag. Suddenly you're like, yeah, no problem. That's no problem. Boom. He's into your thing.
Interesting. And talking of data protection, I know that data breaches are one of the top threats, according to some sources. They're one of the top threats this year and going into the next 2 years. And with the regulatory environment changing, we definitely will see some interesting dynamics around those. Nonson, Steve, chime in.
Myself, I'll just add on to what Dali has just mentioned, and bring in the also perspective of majority of us, well, apart from us, the rest of the staff in the organization are not cybersecurity professionals. So if you're designing your security awareness, it needs to be fun. I'll have to keep insisting on that. You won't ask an accountant to sit for 30 minutes or 15 minutes listening to something about cybersecurity if it's not fun. Otherwise, they'll be doing it just to check a box that, yeah, you demand they have to do this, so they're just sitting there, they check the box, then you're happy. It needs to be very interactive. And I like the bit where Darlene said it needs to be engaging and interactive. That's how you're able to capture a human's attention. And another interesting element is bringing the perspective of how cybersecurity in the office affects their personal life. Once you hit on that today, cybersecurity could affect my family, could affect me at home, like now, especially like right now when you're working from home, that creates interest among the staff members who want to learn more on how they can not only secure the organization, but also use the same knowledge to secure their family as well as their home. Secondly, I think if you look at also the African population, majority of the people working in organizations are millennials. These are guys who are interested in gaming, in trivia activities. That's the best way actually to target this group. Don't put them in a boardroom and go through a presentation. Let it be fun. They love games. Put them games onto the training platform so that they can play those games just the same way they would do in a video game or something of the sort. Over to you, Nonso.
Okay, so now I think when Darren and Steven said, when they finished talking, it's really hard for me to like they said it all. But just to add on one of the things, when Darren and Steve say make it interactive, make it engaging, I totally agree. I was once in a simulation. One of the simulations I attended one time was quite interesting because I actually learned a lot. I think it was my first ever cybersecurity security awareness simulation, and I learned so much. One thing I learned was when you're conducting this test, after you conduct this test and you've gotten your reports, yeah, you call like a meeting, like you call everybody in to the boardroom, and they give it out result, teaching them now about cybersecurity awareness. You understand? You make it fun, you make it laughing, you make everyone happy, you make everyone comfortable. But you do not call out the results of what happened. Say, for example, we sent out all emails and Steve and Daryl clicked on this link. Steve, what were you thinking? You see, that way, we as humans, we as people, we hate being pointed at. And especially not for the right reasons, not for good behaviors, for like, couldn't you just see it was wrong? Are you getting? So you do not call it out. You understand? So if you're having that training, You just say, look, we did this report, and some of you clicked right, some of you clicked wrong, but it's okay. That is the purpose of this exercise. We're all here to learn. And now you can actually then walk through those errors. Those people, just walk and say, this is why. You train everybody, because the fact that some people click. In fact, when I click perform give trainings, I actually admire people who actually click on the link, because it shows they don't know. And that's where you teach them. Because to me, some people could say, I don't know what this is, I'll just ignore it. They don't know. For a lack of a better word, they're just being ignorant because they don't want to look like they don't know. But you see, in that way, they won't know, they won't be able to filter out which emails are legitimate and those ones that actually require urgent attention, and those that are just phishing emails. You understand? So basically, don't point out fingers, do the simulation, take it out, give people, tell them, if one person feels, everybody feels. It's a culture, it's an organization. We are all one. And now, secondly, like Steve said, working from home, COVID-19, getting your work done from home, and family members. Before this session started, I actually was speaking to Daryl, and I had mentioned kids. Now, kids are working, using the tablets and the laptops to access a lot of content online. So one of the questions which is very, very sensitive, especially if you're a parent, is how would you feel when, let me give you an example. It's not a phishing example. There was a video at some point last year, where the kids are watching this video on YouTube, and then a scary face appears and tells the kid to slit their wrist. How many of you saw that video? It was rampant on YouTube. Now imagine your kid watching such a video, and some doll tells your kid, go cut your wrist. You won't feel happy. So actually, when you touch on this aspect and tell people, look, you're not also educating yourself only. It's not going to just help you. It's also going to help your family. Everybody would want to get involved. Everybody would take it serious, because right now, some people are taking it seriously. Some people are saying, it's not going to affect me. I'm all good. What do they want? One question I've heard from an IT specialist was, what are we protecting in the organization? If someone decides to breach our data, what do they want to take? Because they feel the assets, the data they have is not important. Everything is important, because your personal data is important. Someone could steal your online identity. And how would you feel about that? Back to you, Cephas.
Fascinating points. I normally say that we, generally in Africa, and you guys would probably chime in on this. Generally in Africa, we don't talk enough about national security. We don't talk openly and enough about national cybersecurity. We've not embraced cybersecurity as a societal reality, and really bring it to the personal level and even to the family level, because again, the same people who go to organizations come from somewhere, come from homes and families, and what you've mentioned here really, scares me, because again, kids in our homes are becoming the weakest of the weakest links. First, a threat to the house because they are connected to the home Wi-Fi, they're connected home devices through the IoT systems, if you have those. So it's a very, very interesting and fluid thing. But again, we need a lot more personal cybersecurity, as Steve had alluded to. I suppose this thing has to be personal, and even outside work. Outside a control environment where you are bound by rules and performance contracts and performance appraisals and things like those. But again, let me jump to you, Daryl. Steve had mentioned something to do with gamification and delivering security awareness training through gamification. I know one of the big aspects in awareness training is the education approaches. Okay. Probably the new gen will be more keen on gamification or more videos, blah blah blah, and the old gen might have a little different alignment to certain models. How do you see the education approaches while conducting training?
Okay, fantastic, great question. So I mentioned it earlier, and I've mentioned it a couple of times. The old school way for security awareness training to happen, a lot of it is so that teams can just tick the box of compliance. So they do an Excel spreadsheet, or they send out emails, and they make sure that everyone sort of signs that they've read it or whatever. That is the old school way. Your users never actually learn anything from that way, unfortunately. Okay, not anyone, some might, but the new way is to be engaging with your employees. Have short, sharp videos, make them laugh, make them play games, let them live cybersecurity. You don't want to just do cybersecurity awareness. You want to build a cyber security culture in the organization. And I think that's the most important thing, is that you can't just do that with having that boring PowerPoint or those boring emails where they just go, honestly, they just go for the free coffee, the free donuts, or whatever. You need to be engaging. You need to make it fun. They must have a laugh. They must remember it. They must call their friend, hey, Steve, come check this. I just got an 80% on my test. And look how fun it is, you know? Suddenly Steve goes, hey, I want to beat him now. Let me go and do my test. I suddenly now want to get 90%. You know, and those are the things that build that strong culture in the organization, which in turn, in the long term, will actually build that full human firewall theme that we started off talking about right in the beginning. Nonso, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that.
Fun in cybersecurity, cyber awareness. That sounds like fun itself. I mean, asking a security someone in this field about cybersecurity. I mean, for me, once it comes to cybersecurity, everything is fun. Even the hard ones, even the not cyber awareness, but even breaking into things, is still fun. No matter how hard it is, or difficult, it's still fun. But creating awareness through gaming sounds good. However, not everyone, this is to you, Daryl, not everyone is into gaming. Not everyone is into, I mean, everyone wants to be competitive, yeah? But not everyone is into gaming. However, I feel if you're not, I mean, we should have different approaches to this. If you have
100%.
Some want to game, some want to get high score. I'm very competitive. If Steve gets 80, I'd want to get 90. Probably Steve saying, okay, I'm going to get 100 now, and then we're all equal. we even think
no,
that.
you're right. For sure.
But also, some people, tend to look at it from a different perspective. Like, okay, fine. How does this add value to me? How does this add value in terms of why should I learn this? Yes, sir. Will it add to my professional qualifications? Do I get some kind of achievement for this? Do I get, something, yeah? If we also add that, give different options to, you can either learn from this point perspective or this other perspective, that works, if you ask me.
Yeah, guys,
let me jump into this topic of gamification, because I'm sure I'm the one who brought it up as part of the conversation. And maybe the reason why I brought it up, and from my own personal experience, is that, and I'll speak more in terms of from the East African market. Majority of the organizations I work to for consulting purposes, I'll find that a huge percentage of their staff are millennials. These are guys in their early 30s or younger. That also is also a very interesting group, that they have grown up through this era of video games and all those kind of games. And that's why I was talking about the angle of also trying to approach security awareness from a gamification angle, because the audience are people who love these things. It doesn't mean that everyone will love the game. So it's a matter of looking at this organization or your organization, what works best for us, based on our audience, what's available for us, and what kind of message are we trying to build. And to something that Darlene mentioned that is very deep to my heart is cybersecurity culture. A culture is built up by everyone agreeing that these are our common values, these are our common, beliefs. You cannot force. You could. Well, you could go get guns and push the message down their throat. But that won't work. But to build a cybersecurity culture, you have to win everyone's heart. And that's why I said, look at the audience. Who are our audience? How can we best communicate to this audience? Do we just do the normal phishing campaigns? Well and good. Do we need also to introduce some bit of gamification? Well and good. Or do we need also to blend the two? Well and good. It's at the end of the day, what do we want to achieve? That's cybersecurity culture. Then that determines what approach in terms of awareness that we'll approach and we'll use to educate our staff. Back to you, Stefan.
Yeah, interesting point. I was just saying that, culture is a very tricky thing. And you can look at it from the basic level, our cultures in our communities and the dynamics and the differences and how we never you never come to agree on anything. But again, at least in an environment, is more of a controlled space. And because you've pulled me into the culture conversation, let's talk about it. A big aspect of awareness programming is culture, right? And culture you're talking about way of life and way of being or doing, how people live and things like that. So, Daryl, I know your boss is particularly and very passionate about culture, but you can give a lot of perspective on this one. Break down for us the dynamics of culture in an enterprise, and specifically when it comes to security culture. Number one, what does a security culture look like? How do you come to start building it?
Okay, fantastic. I think that to start off with that, I think every organization has a different culture in it, as there's different people, different means, different goals, different industries. But I think the baseline is first getting higher management to understand why they need to have security awareness and a strong security posture, and that'll start filtering down where you can actually start having conversations with your CISO or your MD around what they can change in the business to make the posture slightly better. Maybe let's use my my social engineering attack with the 2 coffees earlier. So what you could enforce in the organization is saying, don't ever let someone in. If they've got 2 coffees in their hand, just grab one of the coffees out of their set. No problem. I'll hold these coffees for you. You sign in and I'll give your coffees back. That's just a quick, small trick. Now suddenly he has to sign in. You're not signing him in. You're not doing anything wrong. And now you're starting to build that sort of that culture around what you want. But as Nonso says, not everyone likes games. So maybe short videos work for some sort of the organization. Maybe like the accounting group, they're quite a serious bunch of people. You know what the accountants are like. They get one straight view. So maybe they just need to make sure that they're watching a video for 5 minutes, concentrating, get their marks and get out. Where someone like HR or the sales team, they love talking, they love being out there, they're happy people. Accounting people are happy, just in their own way. And suddenly they can now play with the games. There are different ways to build that culture. But I think building the culture starts right at the top. They say the head of the snake, that saying, which I've actually forgotten the rest of it, so apologies. but same principle here is that if you get your management, top management, to understand and build and believe into what you're trying to build, that'll filter straight down to the rest of the employees, and it'll be a very easy way to build a culture of understanding what needs to be done to keep our data secure, to keep people from getting into our systems. And just generally, it's not now, compliance is not just a tick box. It's actually a fun, engaging thing where when risk now need to show that they've done it, they've got reports, they've got this. Suddenly that's a big tick with a big black cookie. It's not a normal blue pen tick. It's a proper, yes, we've done it, we've ticked. Everyone understands, everyone's happy. Not always happy, but they're aligned with the goals of the organization. Yeah, that's my view on it. I'm sure other people might have a slightly different one, but I believe it starts at the top and filters down.
In total agreement that building a strong culture, of course, has to start from the top, because if you don't have that blessing, that strategic or that roadmap from the top, you'll definitely fail. Now, another interesting element, and I learned this from one of my favorite authors called Ben Horowitz. He did a book last year called "What You Do Is Who You Are" in terms of organization culture. And there's something he brought out very interesting, that culture is infectious. And now let's come back to cybersecurity culture. The same way general organization culture is infectious, is the same way with the cybersecurity culture will be. I've had a lot of conversations with IT managers, CIOs telling us that, we really try to embed a cybersecurity culture within the organization, but we keep on failing because some departments are not supportive. Some other guys still think, this is a technical conversation, so please don't bring it on board. And from what I learned from Ben Horowitz is that for you to be able to build a strong culture, you will need to look for like a small committee or what I can call your cheerleaders. Get a cheerleader from finance, get a cheerleader from HR, get somebody who will be able to drive the agenda within their function. That way, as the IT manager, yes, you have the oversight and overall, oversight of the entire system, but you have some cheerleaders or some sponsors within various departments. Of course, we work in organizations. We know that there are specific individuals in certain departments that have some influence. They may not be the senior most person in that department, but they can be able to muscle people together. Use those champions within those departments to start building that culture. So once these champions are able to create that infection within the other functions of the organization, then it all becomes now an organization culture that this is the standard of cybersecurity expected from everyone, and everyone appreciates their responsibility in terms of what do I need to do or what am I doing to protect our organization's information assets as I continue to do my day-to-day tasks within the business. Maybe Nonto, you have something else to add?
Yeah, good views from you, from both Steve and Daryl. Now, for cybersecurity awareness culture, it, like both Steve and Daryl have said, it always starts from the top. Definitely, I mean, we as educators, or I don't know what to call us, as trainers in cybersecurity, we cannot just, we can start a movement in the organization, but you see, if leadership or management don't get involved and show seriousness in it, it's not going anywhere. Because people follow the leader. I mean, I don't like Daryl was trying to sing the song of a snake and a hedge. Let's just follow the leader. It's not going to go out. Yeah. So people always follow the leader and watch what the leader does. It's like, whatever this leader does, we have to follow. So having a strong support from the leadership and management team is important. Now, creating a plan also. Because once you get support from them, because they don't really know what's about. I mean, they have an idea what it's about, yeah. But I mean, so what now? Fine, we're going to have this culture. So what now? You need to have a plan. It's like when you're going for a sales pitch. You just don't say, "I'm going to sell this pen," and you don't have a sales pitch. You just go there, buy this pen. Nobody will buy it. You need to have a plan. Yeah. So when you formulate your plan and you ask the right question and what the posture of security in the organization is currently and how it's going to be addressed and how it will take you from your security awareness level here to here. People always like seeing this. Nobody likes seeing this. You like seeing up how pivoting from where you are to where you need to be. Yeah. That is really, really important. And how you go about with this training. We've already discussed this earlier. Now, I mean, sometimes when this is from experience, sometimes when we want to implement new solutions, we call neighboring organizations to ask, hey, hi, I saw you did this project. How did you do it? And then you try to copy word for word everything to work in yours. It won't work in yours because the people in your organization are totally different. You need to now tailor whatever this program to them. Now, policies and processes, this is something we always keep. I mean, in cybersecurity, this is the first thing you always, after the CIA, it is processes and policies. It's like, those are the jingle bell of our own Christmas for us. You understand, yeah? So you need to have these policies and processes in place. What do you do, for example, when you have a suspicious email coming in? What do you do if you do not trust this email? Follow your instincts. Report it to the IT team. Report it to the cyber awareness division if you're going to have that. And now, something which I see a lot is you have the internal people. You've trained the internal staff, but don't get me. I mean, we forget. Most times, maybe once in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, we always get a new employee coming in. This new employee is coming in with his own risk. Because it just takes one person. You don't have to hack him. You don't have to socially engineer everybody in the organization to get access to the system. You just need one person, only one person, one mistake, actually, not even one, just a mistake, and you're in. So you need to also provide this awareness training, like make it an orientation. You come in, you're given, like Daryl said, you're giving a test, make it fun if the person is into test, or you're giving a video to, do what needs to be done, answer the right questions and things like that. So that's where you see when you show your employees from leadership, by the way, when you show your employee your employees, your management, your leadership team is here, your management team is here, your line manager is here, and everybody is seeing that the top is doing. The next in line, the next in line will follow, and that way it keeps going down to the last person. And like Daryl mentioned a very beautiful point. I have my coffees in my hand, which, I mean, it's worked so many times. I mean, you see it in movies, I'm like, it doesn't work. It's worked so many times. I have this, can you help me? I lost my keys in the car, or I just have my bag and I can't open the door. That's like, I mean, it happens a lot nowadays. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we as Africans, we tend to be over trustworthy and too kind. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. We are too kind. We're like, oh, let me just help him, get in because he needs my help. You need to know when to be kind. You need to know when to be socially aware. As in to have this awareness in you. When it comes to entering your office, it's like when you're going to your house and someone wants to follow you in and tells you, oh, I can't find my keys, but I live here in the same house with you. You say, hey, come, I don't know you. No. Likewise, when you're getting somewhere, and this does not just apply to strangers, even your colleagues. I could be colleagues with Daryl, and we're getting into the office, and he's telling me, "Hey, Nancy, hold on, let me pick it." No, Daryl. I mean, you know what? You just, you sign in. You put in your tab and you sign in. Because Daryl could be coming to work that day. I mean, I'm trusting Daryl, but what if Daryl is actually coming to work that day and he could be a malicious insider? I'm sorry, Daryl. I'm not saying you're a malicious insider. What if he's a malicious insider? So see, there are different angles to tackle this from, and what we solve all this thing is having the right culture from the top leadership to every single person. Even when you see your boss is coming and you're in front of your boss, you start to panic. You're like, oh my gosh, my boss is coming. I have to open the door for him to come in. No. You walk in and he comes behind you. If it's going to fire you, I mean, I don't think that's one answer. In fact, he would appreciate the fact that, I mean, you've learned from, the culture, the cyber awareness culture in the organization is growing. That is how, that from my own point of view, that is some of the angles you need to look at from growing and for having a good cyber awareness culture in organizations.
I think just to add on to what Nonso has just mentioned, I was just thinking as he was giving the scenario of, we are taught to be kind. I think when you are growing up, you are taught, respect your elders, or be kind, be nice to the neighbors. And I think that's something that is actually working against us in cybersecurity. And that's why you see a lot of a business email compromise. It's something so basic, so simple, but a lot of organizations and users fall to prey into it because you can't go, going back to like the CEO or whoever is requesting for a payment to be done, for you to go ask them and verify was that an actual payment. So what you do, provided the email comes from the CEO, you just respond and act on the action. Nobody really takes that extra step to walk into that office or make that phone call and inquire, why are you really, asking for this transfer to be done? And I think even the scammers, or these ones are more scammers, they actually understand our culture as humans, that we'll be very kind, we will not really want to question a lot of things, especially if it's coming from a higher authority. So it's not even, I always say that cybersecurity is not even a technology issue. It's a social issue per se. Because these are basic scams falling, that we fall prey to our own culture, to our own, way of doing things. So it's actually not really a technology issue per se. It's more actually of how we are as human beings.
Interesting.
Up to you, Cephas.
Yeah, before you came in, I wanted to tell two stories, but I will hold on those ones because I want to take Daryl up on a question here before he leaves us in the next few, and also guess we'll be wrapping up also in a few parts. So Daryl, straight up. Yeah, it's a bombshell. You gotta wait for it. Get ready. So share with us some of the tips and practices and tools and the resources that our audience can start using tomorrow, enabling the security awareness.
Okay, that's a fantastic question.
Oh,
one,
while you're actually doing that, give a mention to automation, and this is something that I wanted us to discuss, from the gamification to introducing automation in awareness.
Okay, so the first part of your question, couple things. Whenever you get an email, as Steve mentioned earlier, take a step back, breathe. Does your CEO want you to pay this now? Are you not sure? Call him. You know, just take it back. Don't click on it until you've actually fully understood it. Read the domain. Is there any spelling mistakes in the domain? Hover over the links if there's any links. Does that take you to the website it says it's going to? You know, small little things like that go a long way in understanding. You know, if you get a work LinkedIn invite, but you know that your LinkedIn's actually attached to your private email, again, small things where you think it comes through, just understand that your LinkedIn's not actually attached to your work mail. This will definitely be a phish. You know, don't trust Nonso. We've worked together for 5 years, but you don't know, maybe he's been fired yesterday. You don't know that. It's private information. And he's coming in today to start hacking the organization. So my suggestion is trust him to a sense, but you've got to understand that everyone could be an attacker. So just be on your guard. Be wary about what's happening. Don't log on to public Wi-Fi's unless you know that this Wi-Fi is safe. You know, there's a couple more I could go on, but I want to answer this question too about automation. In all honesty, guys, automation is a lot more for the IT team than it is for the end users. IT team want automation because why? It's going to make things faster for them. They can put out the actual fires in the organization, you know, so they can tick a lot of the boxes with sending out automated reminders for training, automated training campaigns, automated phishing campaigns. Suddenly now they have a lot more time on their hands because they don't have to create anything. Everything's already created. They can just send it out, and all they need to do is pull the reporting. So I think those are the two sort of questions answered. Automation is generally for the IT team to make sure that they save time, that they can put out their own fires and not really worry too much about the training, know that it's getting done. And the two things or the tips are just read your emails, take a step back. Don't jump to conclusions. If you're not sure, report it to someone. Phone your CISO, phone your CIO, phone your CEO. Don't action until you have facts from that person's mouth that it is them. Okay, guys, I do have another meeting now in 2 minutes, so it was an absolute pleasure being here with you guys. I really thank you. It was fun. It was engaging. Nonso, I still like you, even though you said I was a bad person. I'm just kidding. No.
All right. Thank you so much, Daryl.
Guys, absolute pleasure. Thanks. Get me on LinkedIn if you need anything. If you need any help, send me an email, whatever. I'm here to help you guys. Thank you so much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. So,
Thank you, darling.
Stephen Nonso, as we wrap this up, I know I've not covered much of the bases that I wanted to, but I'm gonna shorten this. There's an element of yes, we talked about leadership and how leadership, it needs to set the tone and sort of set the pace for the rest of the organization. But what are these practical things that the leadership should do? Because what would you guys advise management to? How would you advise them to set the pace? You know, what should they be doing that they are not doing? Steve?
I think we touched a bit on that topic a bit, and I think Darlene also just hinted on some of the things when we were discussing about how do you get your management and leadership also just to even support and provide resources for a cybersecurity awareness campaign. And I remember he mentioned the bit of even doing simulation for them to just understand what's the risk within the organization. It's not what you're seeing out there in the media. It's how prone our users to clicking on those phishing emails. I think that one, number one, gives a very good lead in terms of, because it gives you the bigger picture of where you stand in terms of your alertness and awareness among the users in the organization. So that one, by first, I think that's very important. Secondly, from a leadership perspective, and I've mentioned this, it's about providing resources. Resources will only be provided if you get to understand what's the impact if the business is compromised. Then from there, you're able to provide resources. Resources here, it could be providing the right budget for cybersecurity awareness. There is that assumption, and I think we've gone into details that, you just need somebody with a PowerPoint presentation to go next. Yes, it's good you've done it, but what's the impact? Does it really have any positive impact to the employees? Will they be well informed and alert the next time they are working on their PCs or laptops or even on phone? That's the other second bit. Thirdly, there is need also continuous learning. Unfortunately, we are humans, we tend to forget. That's our nature. But if there's that continuous learning that today our users have learned about phishing emails, tomorrow they know something about how to set secure passwords, the next time we are having a different conversation, at the end of the day, we are still building up that knowledge base amongst our users. That way, those are very simple and basic steps that an organization can take to be able to improve and develop what we are calling a cybersecurity culture among the organization. And there's also the perspective that the assumption that, you know, security is expensive. Well, the other question they should also be asking themselves, what's the cost if we actually get breached? And I think the comparison between the two, the prevention, of course, will be much cheaper than compared to the cost of repair and recovery from a cyber incident. Another interesting element I wanted just to bring out, may not be related to your question, I think from our earlier discussion, was that why, and I think Darlene was trying to, you know, allude this point that, you know, when you receive an email, don't click on it, take time. Could be a bit interesting because when I started my career, I worked for a multinational, and I remember there used to be a lot of pressure. And when an email comes through, you needed to respond like there and then. And the culture that now we need to push now to users is that, yes, things could be urgent, things could be important, sorry, not urgent. So let's try and understand what's important, what's urgent. Take time to read that email. Just check the basic things that through an awareness training like what Yale Bridges provides with partnership with KnowBe4, will create that alertness to be able to pick out whether this a legit email or it's you know, a phishing email. And the most important thing is always verify. If you are not sure about something, there's always we're always told that you have that gut feeling that something is off. And when that happens, just verify. It takes a minute or less than a minute to just walk to your colleague, confirm whether whatever they have requested is true, make that phone call, or even just walk into whoever was the sender of the email just to verify whether this email was actually legit. It may look like you're wasting time, but it may save a lot for yourself as well as also the organization. Nonso, maybe you might have some other interesting insights.
Before Nonso comes in,
yes, sir.
Let me tell a story here about leadership. Well, at least it's at that level. So a friend of mine did an incident, you know, response in an organization, and the case was that, I hope I'm gonna get it right fully. The case is that someone was using internet resources in the organization after hours, and they were doing streaming from porn sites, right? So that was what was discovered. Now, during this discovery, it was noted that this streaming was actually happening from a senior level account or a senior level access. And later on, it was discovered that it was actually a very it was one of the board members, so to speak, you know. So during the presentation of the incident, the board membership and everything, you know, it was mentioned that one of the board members in the room was actually the one streaming. They were the culprit. Yet awareness training had been done before, you know, probably multiple times, and they had set out security strategies and things like those. So it's always interesting when you talk about the tone at the top. Sometimes it might not match the action, the practical actions, because you can invest, yes, in security, but you still be floppy. You know, you still have flops in the way you practice, you know, some of the policies and everything that you've set out. But having said that, hey, Nonso, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about two things. The first is, you know, when you're talking about cyber awareness, from getting management involved in cyber awareness, in terms of the cost implications, it's important to let management know cyber awareness is not buying a strong firewall. It's not getting a CM. No, let's shut up. they start getting a strong IDS or IPS. No, cyber awareness is is totally different. In fact, it's not really technology related. I mean, technology plays a huge role in it, but it's not technology related per se. You understand? So they need to ensure that employees keep themselves updated. That is their responsibility. That is because I mean, as an employee, if I'm an employee of an organization, I wouldn't go except if I'm passionate about cybersecurity and being safe online. I'd go and learn about it and keep myself safe. But if I'm not, I don't care. I feel it's after all. I mean, there's this saying that goes, "It's not my company." You understand? So, if management provides adequate training to people, like telling them, look, it's mandatory, not adequate, it's mandatory to do these simulations. It's mandatory to log into your computer from time to time to carry out video trainings. I mean, it goes into your report, it goes into your performance report. It's mandatory, and we'll see, we'll keep logs, tabs on those work. I mean, you won't be punished. It just goes into saying you're a team player, so you want to be kept abreast of things that are going on in this space, to making sure we and yourself, you're protected. You understand? Yeah, that can drive, that can take things so far. Like it can make, we can actually see a lot of changes. We actually make management role easy. So saying it's from our own angle area only, it's not going to help. But saying, it's everybody's responsibilities. Management has to put its foot down, not in an authoritative way, man. Like I said, because if you start forcing grown-ups to do something, they start feeling like, "Come, am I in school? I'm not in school." But if you actually give them if you let them know the implications and give them these resources online, and sometimes I mean, we should schedule trainings and simulations probably once a year or twice a year. It doesn't really matter. You understand? Yeah, but once a year is good enough. However, if we have these video resources on our local intranet, it goes a long way. So every month, an awareness training comes up, and not an awareness training of 1 hour, 2 hours. No one has that kind of time. If no one wants to do it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just a short video. And then on the same internet, you log onto your system, you get a message of, like you have a daily brief, or even sent to your emails. You understand? Yeah, a daily brief of, attacks. Just a 1 minute read. Like sometimes when you go on Medium to read articles, you can see those ones that say 20-minute read. You're like, okay, do I have this 20 minutes time to read this thing? No. And you see those for 5-minute read. You're like, okay, maybe I can read it for 3 minutes. You see, those short things. That is the responsibility of management. That's what they need to be doing, and that way they get the word out. Now, Cephas, they had mentioned something about top management accessing porn sites, board member accessing porn sites. Now, that is really, really interesting because now I'm not going to backlash on the IT department. However, we do know a lot of IT teams, IT departments, or IT people. I don't. Sometimes you wonder what is it? What are you doing? And when I say it, I'm talking about a lot of people, like even in top organizations like Facebook, Twitter, and places like that. What are you doing? Because there are certain things that should not be in place that are happening. For example, he's accessing porn sites. You block it on the firewall. You understand? So which means the policies on you don't have strong policies that are set up on your firewall system. You're allowing any traffic go in and out. Then what exactly are we talking about cyber awareness if you do not have those basics, capped already? I mean, forget about the training. I mean, it's not going to just work because these guys can just enter the network easily. So block certain sites out. It's not necessarily about allow outgoing, block incoming on firewall rules. No, even certain sites like. When I had my role as an IT administrator, what it was in the mornings, which was accepted by top management, from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, no Facebook, no Twitter, because I mean, if it's not work related, don't allow it in. And when I say no Facebook, no Twitter, now imagine other streaming sites, not allowed. A lot of people didn't like it, but see, eventually people say accepting it. Now you could say, fine, maybe he was using a VPN to bypass it. Yeah, that is where policies come in place. You implement administrative rights. For him to install anything, it means you need to have administrative rights on your systems. I mean, you get my point. So it's pretty interesting when we look at cyber awareness, and we also have not covered the other fundamental, the basics. It's really, really difficult to actually drive this perception. And then the culture, which we had spoken earlier before. If we do not embrace this security awareness culture, who will? No one will. I mean, it's top management are doing that kind of thing, and then they get, and the report comes out, what happens to this person? He should not, of course, should not be reprimanded in public, but he should be called outside and told, look, we found out this. The report, the management actually called this board member to tell him, look, you were found doing ABCDF. Please don't do it. It doesn't look good on you, and that kind of thing. I mean, there should be some sort of talk. I don't want to say reprimand. I don't say reprimand because now how do you reprimand a board member? But there should be some kind of. You think you can reprimand him and tell him, look, he has to pay a particular. I mean, he has to show responsibility because it's not about responsibility. And it's all about following. Thank you so much, sir. I knew I went a bit deeper into it, but it's pretty unfortunate when you see all this. When you see the basics, because I see it as basics. Probably it's my years of experience. I don't know, but when you see the basics being ignored and you want to jump gun and start talking about advanced things. Well, the basics, you've totally ignored them. It's quite unfortunate. Thank you.
Well, basics are good, but you also know it happens. All these things can happen to the best of us at any point in time. So, yeah. So as we wrap this up, the issue of trust and security awareness, absolutely, relational. Social engineering leverages on trust. On our trust, for hackers to be able to bypass the human firewall. And talking of the human firewall, Steve, where is the human firewall located? Is it at the perimeter? Is it at the second or the third layer? Humans, users,
I think
what of defense are they?
human firewall is you and I. We are the first line of defense against. Yep.
Are you sure?
Yes, we are the first line of defense against our organization. Because as we said earlier, is that the adversary will first target you and I before they even think of breaking into your system. And I think this is what we've emphasized in this session is zero trust. What you see, don't always trust, verify. Zero trust is very critical, and all of us play a very critical role as being on the first line of defense. Think of it like in a war. We are those soldiers who are on the first line of the war defending the rest of our team members. So each of us plays that role in their respective organization. So the human firewall is me, you, and every other person who's on this webinar.
And you're saying we are the first line of defense.
We are the first line of defense because whether you put in what we can call the best security solutions out there, the attacker will of course want to target your people. And if your people have vulnerabilities, and vulnerabilities is that lack of awareness, the attacker will get into your organization. And nowadays, it's not an issue of breaking into systems. It's if I can convince you to make a payment of $2,000 or $20,000 to another account, I've got what I wanted, which was the money. Or if I convince you to send me your customer database, presuming I'm a stakeholder of the business, you've already given me information I needed. Why do I need to come in and break your database? And just to bring in something that Nonso mentioned about doing the basics right. I think I've seen in environments where people are rushing, to buy all kind of shiny solutions out there, forgetting about the basics. You could have the best, for example, network access control, but yet you've not done the basics. So whether you bring in this solution, you brought in a good solution in a very, I don't want to call it dirty environment, but an environment that has too many holes. So it's a good solution, but in a very in an environment that has too many holes. So yes, it's a good solution, but but what underlays underneath it is a very porous environment. So it won't really assist in terms of your cyber hygiene. So let's go back to the basics. Cyber hygiene. How do you ensure our organization security posture is a continuous improvement? And then also, let's not forget about the basics of IT security or cyber security. The people, which we've been speaking about, the processes, very important, as well as the technology. But first, the people.
It's people first. And of course, zero trust for security awareness. That makes for an interesting conversation. But again, as we wrap this up, I've said that like how many times? Yes, but not so. Probably you can give a response and give us your parting shot.
All right. So human firewall. When I saw that line, I laughed. So like, wow.
Which line of defense is it? Some are saying the last line, some are saying the first line, some are saying is somewhere within the layer.
I'll say human is also the first line of defense, because I mean we need to protect, we need to pass on this information, we need to tell the systems what to do. So we need to, as we understand what we want in and what we want out, and then let the system know that, okay, fine, this is what we want and what we do not want. So I'll go with the first line of defense, because that's us feeding this information to the system. Now, when we look at when we look at all systems and the vulnerability and looking for vulnerabilities, I myself, I do sometimes I do penetration tests sometimes, and it's not fun to do it, because sometimes you don't know what you're looking for. I mean, sometimes you're testing a system and you don't know if it's vulnerable, and you could spend a week to a day, depending on how strong the system is, and you might find something, or you might not find something, or you might even miss something. However, I'm not going to give you references from my own experiences. I'll give you a reference from a particular series I watched, which one of my favorite series. I think you might all have heard of it. It's called Mr. Robot. And when they went to break into Steel Mountain, what did they say? That place has the best security area. It's basically, you cannot get in the system. And what did Elliot say? He said from where he stands, he can count 5, 6, 7 vulnerabilities. I mean, vulnerabilities, and those people who he was referring to, and those vulnerabilities he was referring to were people. You understand? So we need to ensure that all our trainings, all our awareness, we do not trust anyone, whatever it is that we are getting, just have this, I don't trust you. If it's from an email, if it's from text messages, if it's even on the call, sometimes you could get phone calls. Like when you call your bank sometimes and you're trying to fix a problem, and the bank starts asking you, what's your name? What's your date of birth? What's your email address? Those kind of questions. Sometimes I start getting suspicious. I'm like, why are you asking me all these questions? I also need to ask you, because I do not know who it is I'm giving this information to. But most times you always have to give out this information. So trust no one, train yourself, train your mind, try to identify, these techniques attackers are using to exploit systems, and also, ensure you do everything you can to stay safe, and then call people. If you see an email from someone who you not know, who did not know who he is, call the person. Don't download files. Don't put off automatic download. Sometimes you want to do something, automatic download just comes in. Don't click on malicious links, and monitor your browsing habits. If you do not know a site that you're going to, don't go to it. You're better off not going to a site and save yourself a lot of headache than going to a site and start worrying, oh, what do I do? And last but not least, my parting shot. If it smells funny, if the site or the email smells funny, if the message smells funny, 95% of the time it is funny. Thank you. Back to you, Cephas.
Well, maybe phishing emails don't smell, right? But I get your point. All right, good. So, Steve, give us your parting shot.
No?
Steve, can you
hear
me?
Yes, I can. I think I'd already done that when I spoke about zero trust. And I think maybe what I can add on to what Nonso said is that when you think about the attacker, we focus so much on the outside and we forget about the inside. That we might have attackers inside within our premises. So the zero trust should not just be a matter of emails. It's also about your colleagues. When you start noticing some, weird behavior or change of behavior, that's something that also you should also pay attention, because the attacker could have bought the access through an insider, or the insider is the one also who's willing to sell out organization data or open doors, for lack of better words, for the attacker. So it's not a matter of just on email, it's also about also your colleagues that you work with within the business. So my parting shot still remains zero trust. And stay safe.
Zero trust. Fantastic. So just a summary here and probably a few comments of mine. We've spoken about leadership for security awareness, a bit of change and why change is important, change of culture, change of behavior and others. Steve, please come back to my screen. Why do you keep disappearing like that? All right, cool. So you've talked about issues of culture, which again is big, and there's a very interesting. Let me share something interesting here that I love making reference to. Give me a minute. Let me find it. Yes. So there's a very fantastic asset or a tool here called the Security Culture Framework. I have dropped the link in the chat. Please go ahead, take a look at it. It's a developing platform and open source resource. I know the people developing, they're affiliated to know before as well. So I guess that would be a very good asset to look at. The Security Culture Framework just gives you a more structured and organized approach to going beyond awareness into culture and how you can do that. And offers the framework itself. It talks about training, talks about measurement and monitoring and things like those. Talks about exercises, and I think that's one very important thing. Doing drills even at the board level. And Steve here loves Room 42. Maybe Steve, you can share with us the link of 42 in the chat section as well. I think exercises are important. Of course, the issue of automation and stuff. And then you come to the soft aspect, issues of values, behavior, attitudes, culture, conscious. Steve, you had mentioned earlier on about that gap. How do we use security awareness, particularly the training, to instill that gut, that sixth or the seventh sense that will enable our people to question. And I guess this is not just important for security within the organization; it's important for personal security. When you're out there in the streets and you always have that gut, something is wrong or someone could attack you. So that gut also applies to security, when within an organization. Probably one last one is the issue of roles and responsibilities, and that's why earlier on I was insisting beyond just having the roles for the board. How do they really practice it? And having these roles and responsibilities across the enterprise is good. Again, personal cybersecurity, personal responsibility as part of culture, as part of governance. So thank you very much, Nonso and Steve and Daryl in absentia. You guys have been very rich and fluent and interesting. I'm glad that we've laughed during this session, like the previous one. Yeah, don't go and tell about me saying this, but thanks so much for coming around and sharing those thoughts, experiences, practices, and a lot more. Our audience, I hope you've learned. Thank you for sticking with us for the last 1 hour and 45 minutes, well, maybe slightly more. And we'll be sharing the recording to this session and uploading the YouTube channel. If you want to connect with us, please go to the chat section. We've posted lots of links there. Look at the website, look at the LinkedIn, the Twitter, connect with us, talk to the panelists, talk to us, whoever else you find there. And let me see if I have some. Yes, so there's a reward for those who have been active. Apparently, most of you have not been active, so that is a bad sign because you don't want free phishing exercise, guys. Yeah. But
maybe just safe us to jump in. I think the participants who are within the call, feel free to reach out to us. For the free phishing campaign from our partner KnowBe4, we'll still be able to gladly extend that to you, even if you are not very interactive, as Cephas says.
Absolutely. So freebie for everyone. I hope you're rejoicing where you are. So fantastic. All right, that is a wrap. You all stay safe and have a very restful, peaceful, and epic weekend.